We've got this last part. My little bad here that I haven't 100% made this bulletproof. If you find that the control, we can't just do a negative value, this one little step that we need to do, don't worry about it. But what we do need to do is make sure that the right control is in the correct location for the right foot. So this problem here where we couldn't actually just invert it and give it a negative value for x because it's got a reset value that's already 0 on the offset. For that, if you find that's the case, like the left foot, where it should actually be probably a value of 1, that's what it should be, but it's not. Simply just take the actual right side control and build it and just snap it to the ankle joint. Really simple fix. It should actually work for the script, but yeah, it might be. I'm sorry. That part's just a little bit wrong. Just make sure it is correctly aligned with the right side and all will be well. So that's it for stage 3. Now, stage 4 is a fair bit of work in the sense that unfortunately we're going to have to step through and do all of this. And then the bad news at the very end is that we have to do exactly the same setup for the right-hand side. And this is where we can't just kind of cheat and mirror stuff or flip it and invert it and get it to work. What's happening in stage 4 is that we need to set up a whole bunch of constraints. And the constraints are designed as a way of setting up and linking basically different parameters or aspects of a node so that it's going to be associated with some other completely different node. And those control structures are very, very important. Without them, rigging would be impossible. We wouldn't be able to do very much at all. If all we could do is just parent object A to object B so that wherever A goes, B goes, you wouldn't be able to create very much. Constraints give us an enormous amount of power and choice in terms of how we decide to connect and associate this stuff together. So sadly, and I'm not going to do the right-hand side because it just isn't time, but we're going to have to go through this, and then when you're done it, you're going to have to do the right-hand side as well. But it's probably good anyway because you'll learn a bit more about constraints in that process, and hopefully it'll make a bit more sense. First thing, we want a whole bunch of controls for the foot. We want to be able to make use of all these awesome attributes that we've created so that we can roll the foot, twist and do it. That's what these groups are going to be for. We're then going to set up these groups and connect them with the IK that we built, and then we're pretty much just going to go through and constrain all of these controls together so that when we move the controls, stuff happens. Because at the moment, they look good, they don't do anything. So it's pretty hopeless. All right, so let's step through and we'll create the foot groups first. So an empty null or a group node on its own is just a group. All you got to do is hit Control-G to generate an empty null node or just a group node. All this is just a transformation node in space. This is it. It's got no shape, no nothing. It's just literally a transformation node. Everything in Maya has one of these transformation nodes. Any joint, anything that you create. But this is just a null on its own. It's just an empty transformation node, otherwise known as a group or a null. We want to change the rotate order of this thing as well because we're going to be using this to rotate the foot and all of that stuff. It's not absolutely compulsory that you do the rotation, but it makes sense for all the reasons we talked about before, about trying to avoid, not prevent it, but trying to avoid people. So Z, X, Y for the rotate order. Let's duplicate this. So we're going to end up with 3, we're going to end up with 3 duplicates. So 4 groups in total, and I'm going to relay all of these. So group GRP. Notice the naming conventions are useful. Everyone has different ones. You'll find different tutorials will use different naming conventions. But be consistent is the best thing when you're starting to learn. So group, let's copy that. We've got toe roll. And these relate to the attributes that we created. You might see that these names are familiar. So ball roll, toe tap. And these will become transformation points around which we will be able to spin the joint chains and the IK handles, and that's why these nodes are very important. Without them, we couldn't do much. So we've got the 4 groups. Save this version 4 as we go. It's a bit slow, I think it's trying to write to my USB. So we're going to edit the group pivot points. And these pivot points are going to be based around the orientation or the joint that they're going to need to drive or control. So you want to make sure that you get them right. Otherwise, you're going to find that your rig just doesn't work properly. So we want to group point snap this stuff. So the ball roll is going to be point snapped to the joint for ball roll. So D and V, middle mouse button, make sure the move tool's active, and it should pop into that position. Toe roll is going to also be connected to the joint null, so in other words, the tip of the toe. So D and V, middle mouse button, pop to the end. The toe tap is going to be snapped to the ball joint, so D and V, middle mouse button, click, and then we're going to move the actual group, so not point snapping, we're literally going to move it back to the heel. So toe lift. Now there's nothing to see, it's just literally a transformation axis, so just roughly guesstimate where this should fit. Let's bring the mesh back. And this is where the back of the foot's going to roll from, so near enough really is good enough, it's just a visual guide. Don't move it on Y, in other words, don't change its relative height, it should still fit flat on the ground, but you can move the X or Y or whatever looks good, just roughly so it's on the back end. Now we're going to parent these groups. All of these groups are going to need to be driven primarily by the foot control. So when that foot control moves, we want to make sure that all of this stuff comes with it. So step 3 is to parent all of these. So just take all of them, drag and drop them onto the control for the correct foot. Be careful when you're doing all this stuff. Now that we've got right sides and left sides, just be careful you're actually dropping it on the correct control, because when you've got multiple sides, it can get a bit difficult when you're looking at that stuff quickly in the outliner. You're going to think, hey, I'm going to accidentally be moving the right stuff. So it might just help if we drag the right stuff off. So we've got that parented, which means those groups are going to move around with us. And we now need to set up the hierarchy. And this is really important. You may not really understand it right now as to why we're doing it in this order, but when you see the connections and the relationships inside the outliner, hopefully it'll make more sense to you. This is just to make sure that we can rotate all the chains and get everything to move correctly. So the IK for the ball of the foot should be connected to the toe roll group. So just follow the instructions pretty much as they're written, and hopefully this will be reasonably painless. So we want to make sure that the IK Warrior ball for the left-hand side is going to be a child of toe roll. So just simply middle mouse button, drag and drop it. Make sure the relationship's correct. If you get it wrong, you can change it later, but it should be pretty easy. We want to make the group for the Warrior toe tap. That's going to end up being a child of toe roll too. So middle mouse button, drag and drop. We want the IK Warrior for the leg. That needs to be grouped to ball roll. And we'll test it soon, you'll see. If you get it wrong, you'll see visually that it just doesn't work in the viewport. We want the IK Warrior for the toe. That should be a child of toe tap. Toe, group, toe tap. And then the group for ball roll. That should be grouped to toe roll. And the last one is to see that the group for toe roll, that should be a group of heel lift. All we've done is just basically shift and moved around all of those things so that the IK is all being connected to some sort of group, and that those group nodes are then going to drive this stuff. To get some idea as to whether the setup's going to work, we can have a look at each of these groups and see if it does what we expect. So we don't want to manipulate the IK, it's not going to help us, we're not going to be able to do that, but we can manipulate the groups. So if we pick heel lift, we should be able to rotate everything from the back of the heel. Good. If we take the toe roll, then we should be able to roll everything from the front of the foot all the way up the chain. Good. Works. If we take the toe tap, this should just basically make the toes wiggle in the front. And if we do the ball roll, it should roll from the ball of the foot. Awesome. So all of that works. That means all the group that we set up is correct. That's just a simple way of checking it. I will give you a copy of the outline and you'll be able to confirm that the order is correct, but the script is right. Now we're going to set up a knee constraint group, and there's a couple of things we need to do with the knee, because when we move the character around, we might want the whole knee structure to go with us just for the sake of convenience, rather than us having to constantly counter animating the position of the knee whole vector. So that's really what this stuff's going to do. And now we're going to set up the foot constraint. So we want the knee offset, and we're looking at the left hand. So take the knee offset, and we're going to group it. So just Control G, this basically creates another group. Copy this, and we will label this as IK knee constant. So IK warrior knee constant. And this is just going to be another transformation node that we can use to store data and information. And that will come in handy soon when we do all the constraints, which is going to happen in the next section. So with this, we now need to point snap this to the this group pivot to the ankle. So basically, when we move the foot around, it's going to have a transformation axis down here, which is going to help us. So D and B, I've got some junk in here, so again, it might be a good idea to sort of hide some of this stuff to make it easier. Make sure we're in move mode, D and B, and if you get this problem where it's sort of over the top of it, it's a bit hard to sort of move it, you can actually click on this and move it to wherever you want. So I'm just middle mouse button dragging that control. So I'm just going to make sure that it snaps to where the ankle joint is. So that's D and B snap. Now we'll set up a knee constraint. And this is going to make sure that the constraint, that the actual constant node for the knee of this thing here is going to follow or be point constrained to the foot control. So wherever we move the foot control, this thing will move as well. The order of setting up constraints is important. You need to make sure you select them in the right order. If you select them in the wrong order, you will be constraining them in the wrong direction, and everything will not work. So pick the control first, and then pick the constant. I'll label this thing properly. All right, so pick the control, pick the knee constant for this, and do a point constraint. Now, what does a point constraint do?
It aims, kind of like aim and strange, except it follows the translation.
Yes, it only affects translation. Good. So reset the values for this, because we're using it for the first time, and we'll click apply. What you'll see now is that something interesting has happened over here. The channels have gone sort of bluish, and we've added a new node that is a point constraint. So if we click close, let's have a look at what's really happened. In the outliner, you will see that the knee constant now has a point constraint that is bound to this transformation node. And this actual point constraint is bound to the control IK warrior foot. That's the actual control that we're bound to. Test it out. If we move the foot, that should move too. Excellent. So that constraint's very, very useful. Why is it really useful? I can go back to here and I can set any of these values I like for this control. If I had done that directly to the control itself, this is what would happen when you come to animate. You have these blued out values and you wouldn't be able to animate with it and get results. This is very bad. You don't want this on a control because this control is constrained. It's telling you I can't actually do what I need to do because I'm bound to something else. That is why we create offset nodes. In this case, we can use it as a way of constraining this hierarchy to something else, but we keep the control free. At any stage, we can animate and move the control. We can drive what's going to happen for the knee position, and anytime I want to reset it, I just zero it out, and everything just pops back in default poses. Very, very powerful. We're going to do the same thing to orient it. So in other words, when we rotate the foot control, I want that to also rotate the knee control. What's beautiful about constraints too is that we can animate them on and off. You can turn them on and off as to where they're going to work. When we parent something, it's parented for life. But you could be constrained to someone and you can get released if you wanted to. But your parents, no. Constraining is good. So let's do 7, where we do the orient constraints. The same thing as before. We will select the foot control for this, and we will set the constraining node, and we will do an orient constraint. Bring up the dialog box, reset settings, and here we're only going to be constraining it on the y-axis. What that means is only when you sort of twist the foot control this way will the knee rotate with it. If you rotate the foot that way, there's no reason for the knee to be moving. So we're only constraining on the y-axis. To see what that does, I should be able to rotate this control up and down, twist it even, but when I turn it this way, it will also turn the direction that the knee control is facing. And these are just courtesies to the animator as much as anything, and they're a convenience when you're animating. Otherwise, you've got to constantly counter-animate that IK control all the time, and that generally is not a good idea. But because it's a constraint, we can deactivate it. That's what's beautiful about it. We can go along here and say, in actual fact, I want to assign a 0 weight to that constraint. So now when I rotate the control, it doesn't move anymore. It's really clever. So these things are very valuable. Once you get used to using constraints, you'll be very impressed in terms of what you can create with them. All right, so we're mostly done. We now want to set up the constraints for the foot. So we want to make sure that the foot is going to follow the master control. Now, master control is just literally place your rig somewhere in the world so that your character is at least connected with something. If your character needed to be on a moving platform or something, you would connect the this master control to that moving platform with a constraint, not parenting it, because then it could get on and off at any stage. Join a different moving elevator or whatever they're going to be flying around with. So if they're parented, yeah. So with this, we will set the control for the Warrior Master, and we're going to associate that with the actual foot control offset. We're going to be binding it to the foot offset. Again, this is powerful because it means that we can set up these constraints and get all this stuff to work very nicely. Where's my foot control? What have I done with it? So this becomes very useful because when this gets bound, and I use a parent constraint this time, parent constraint is just a convenient way of having both the point and orient constraint at the same time. We could actually set them up independently, but for this, there's no real benefit for this setup. So I'm just going to assign a parent constraint. And check that it works. We should now be able to move the master control, and that whole foot follows with us. So that's good. That's working nicely. And we still have, when we go to the foot control, zeroed out values that we can move for the control, because now the offset is storing the information about its parented relationship. So it keeps this rigging process working. Next step is to create a knee master control, and this is designed to make sure now that this control for the knee will be able to follow this. So we're just going to create another one on top. Pretty easy. Take that knee constant we built and group it again, and just relabel it. So copy. This is going to be called knee master.
So when you're animating with a rig like this, do you use the circle master beneath the feet, or do you control the box surrounding the actual foot itself?
You end up driving all the controls, all these funny shapes and stuff that we create. They're the things that you give to an animator to drive. And when we get to the end of the rigging shortly, you'll see that we do some cleanup to make sure that the animator doesn't start manipulating stuff that they shouldn't. Because riggers hate animators, and they need to make sure that animators can't get their hands on something that shouldn't be manipulated or edited. Animators hate riggers because they lock all that stuff that they want to get access to.
Should you change the IK to control?
Sorry?
You still want it as IK or a
Yeah, because it's not a control that an animator is going to use. I'm going to prevent them from having any access to this.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm not labeling it as a control because they're not meant to touch this. Yeah. But good, I'm glad you noticed that. All right, so we've renamed the group as IK Warrior Knee Master, which is great, and now we want to make sure that it gets constrained to the master control, so that this one is going to constrain where this goes. And we're just going to do a parent constraint as well with that. What do we get for our money in this setup? So I need some more screen real estate to work with. It should mean that we can take the master control, and it now follows. Great. So the knee's now actually moving with wherever. So you can rotate in position and get your key rig into a default starting pose, and the whole rig will come with it in terms of that stuff. All right, so it should follow rotation and movement, which is good. Now I'm not going to do this. This is a bad step. Step 11. Cool again. Sorry. There isn't really shortcuts other than scripting to avoid that particular problem at this stage, because constraints can't be duplicated, because you're going to end up constraining it to the left side, so your right side's going to be bound to the left side, which is stupid. So it's easy just to go back and redo it to get it to work. So I'm sorry about that, but you'll get over it. All right, so we're now going to jump on to part 5, and this is really easy. This is where we get to do a little bit of connection. We're just basically going to connect the attributes that we built. So remember, much earlier on in the lesson today, we generated some custom attributes for the control on the foot. We built all this stuff, but it doesn't do anything. It looks good. You're going to kid the animator. It's like, wow, I've got some stuff to play with, and it does nothing. So part 5 is going to connect and associate these with the actual groups that we generate. All of this stuff is going to get driven by these attributes here. So just go through it and do it step by step. If you get it wrong, you can always go back and break it and do it again. I'll show you how to stop it. So select the control, and we will pick the first group, which will be ball roll. And for connection, we're going to use the connection editor. So we go to General, Editors, and choose Connection Editor. And this display is very messy, so don't show non-keyable. Don't show non-keyable. That makes it a lot easier to read and all that other stuff that's there. So what we're doing here, we are going to connect the ball roll to rotate X of this group. And so we're connecting the ball roll attribute to rotate X for the ball roll. What this means is this attribute, ball roll, will be the master, and it will slave drive rotate X. Test this out. If we go to ball roll, sure enough, it now works. We've got an actual attribute or a connection that's been made so that they are related. How do we check that in the scene? Well, if we have a look at the group, you will see in the group that the X channel now has this yellow color in the channel box. And this means that it is either being driven by an expression or it's being connected to something else. When you hover over it, that's what it says. I am connected to control IK Warrior foot. That's really useful. So we don't ever need to access the group and animate all that stuff. You're going to give this to the animator, and they're going to have a neat little control that they can drive. We just need to do that for the rest of the stuff. So go through the same process. Select the foot, ball roll, connection editor. And this time we want to associate the foot lean with rotate Z. Want to test it to see if it works. Foot lean should be sort of rolling around the foot, which is doing this. Now we want to connect toe roll. So we can leave this dialog up and you can reload this stuff if you want. How do we do that? This is going to be easier if we do it that way. I'm going to select the warrior group toe roll, and I'm just going to reload the right-hand side of this. So it still is going to be loaded here. I can then use the toe roll and connect it to the toe roll, rotate X. Part 4, toe twist. We're going to connect the toe twist to rotate Y. You can check that all that stuff works. We should now be able to select the control and toe twist and toe roll. All works. Now we just got to do toe tap and heel lift. So we will load in the toe tap. Make sure we just load the right-hand side. Toe tap will get connected to rotate X. And the last one is the heel lift. So we need heel lift, reload right. Heel lift gets connected to rotate X. So check that it all works. Should have a foot lean, heel lift from the back, toe twist, stub out the cigarettes, wiggle the toes, toe roll from the very tip of the toes, and ball roll from the middle of the foot. So you now have a working rig for this foot that we can use, that an animator is going to be able to control, so that we can get this character to actually walk and do everything involved with all of that stuff, which is pretty neat. And you've created it from scratch, and you've built something that's actually very stable, very reliable, but highly unlikely you're ever going to have any issue with it, unless you literally try to break the angle by rotating it through the lateral length of the joint. And I can't help you with that. All right, so that's done. Same for step 7. This is easy. Repeating that process is pretty simple. It's not really that painful. Now the last part we've got to do is 6, and this is just to clean up the rig. There isn't much cleanup that needs to be done in this situation because we don't have a lot of controls, but there are a few things that would be worth doing so that you don't confuse the animator or provide them with an opportunity to break your rig. So we now need to work out what needs to be hidden from an animator, and this is about the type of control. So the knee control, all it really needs to do is it just needs to move through space. It doesn't need to be rotated, and it doesn't need to be scaled, and that thing is going to prevent problems if it does. So what do? Select rotate all the way through scale, right click, and we're going to choose to lock and hide the selected attributes. So the channel box now, when you pick this object, it's obvious to the animator, that's what I'm meant to do with it. I'm just meant to drag the thing around. They're not going to think, oh, I should be rotating it and screwing around with it. With the foot control, we need to do something similar, except this needs to be moved, it needs to be rotated. So the thing we want to get rid of is scale. This rig is not a scalable rig. You can't scale it up and make it bigger or smaller. You could, but it won't work. So with this, we're just going to get rid of the scale attribute. Same thing, lock and hide selected. So now all of those attributes are valid, that we can drag the foot around and move it. We should be able to rotate the foot around in space, and we've got all of those other controls that we can use to drive it.
What if we lock and save something and realize shit we can put on?
Yeah, good question. You'll find in the where is it? Windows Channel Editor, Channel Control. So Windows General Editor's Channel Control, and if we pick something like this, we've stuffed it up. This window says these are the attributes that should be keyable and visible in the channel box, which is exactly what we're seeing. These are the ones that you can't key that are currently hidden, and these are the non-keyable ones that are displayable. So what you need to do is have a look, because when you hide it, they will appear here. They'll appear here. So you're going to be looking for scale, X, Y, and Z. That's the stuff that you accidentally hid and locked away. So we are going to move that from there into keyable again. And you see that they now appear. Then you'll have to select them and unlock them manually. So unlock selected.
Is that only applied to that particular controller, or is that everything that you want?
That's only applied to what I have in my selection. So I only have that attribute, that object selected. That's what is affected. See how it says up here, control, okay, warrior foot left. That's what it's affecting. Yeah, so if you stuff it up accidentally, that's how you fix it. So Windows, General Editors, Channel Control. So if we lock and hide, it's gone. All right, any questions about that process? Does that look pretty achievable?
Maybe. We might have some stuff going during the week while we try it.
Yeah. You got the whole cheat sheet. I'm going to copy that across for you now. When I copy that across, you'll also see that you will get an outliner breakdown, which is literally the order of all that stuff. So if you're confused, it's like that's how everything should look, that's what it should be named. and it should make life a bit easier for you. Do that during the week. If you want to build this rig onto a choice of character, you are welcome to do that. But just remember what I said about the layout of the character and the legs and the thought that I gave to them being positioned and oriented. That's very important. If you create a rig that's slanted on angles and you don't follow the instructions, all of this stuff will break. So my advice to you is use my file and build from that. And once you've done it once or twice, you can then go on into your own custom characters later on. That way you're less likely to suffer grief.
Is this considered a beginner's and intermediate level?
This rig?
Yeah.
Very basic. I'm sorry, but it's very basic. There's no stretchy IK in it. It doesn't scale, so you can't scale it the whole rig bigger and smaller. It's very crude, to be honest. I know you're looking at it thinking, wow, we spent 2 hours or more just going through it. But yeah, it's very simple. All right, I'm going to copy that into rig. So you'll find that we have in there the 3 pages for the cheat sheet. Just do them in order. The outliner, there is the file that you can start from in terms of rigging. And take your time during the week. Just find some time between now and next Thursday. And I want you to build that on your own. I want you to bring that into class so that we can have a look. Because I need you to go through the process of doing it. Just watching it's fine, but you doing it, you'll find you might end up with some problems or issues. And it's important that we learn from those potential problems. I've got the scripts in there for you, so make sure you copy that stuff because we did use a few of those in order to get this to work. Good luck with that. It should be easy. It should be easy. All right, we've got a little bit of time left, so I'd like to come around and sort of see where you're up to. If you've got any questions about what's happening in terms of the modelling stuff. Before we go today, I will give you some reminders about your delivery for week 7 and what you're going to need to do for that assessment.
Question about last week with the MIA materials. The tooltips weren't showing up when I was hovering over some of the
You're recording.
Like you were saying, for like a larger fraction, you can hover over listed like values.
Yeah.
I was supposed to do last week's for everyone.
Maybe where you're
Forgot.
hovering
Oh,
is
did
the
you
problem.
get
Might be
that?
just something as simple as
Every week.
that.
Which I